This week in CIST 2531, we'll look at Chapter 12, using brushes to create an ad. Keep in mind the brushes we're going to be using. This is going to be a little different than what we did in Photoshop with using brushes. In Photoshop, the brush lays down a trail of pixels. In Illustrator, the brush is going to leave behind a set of vector paths. Those paths can follow a path that's drawn by the brush or another drawing tool. First, we'll start off looking at our brushes. You see on the screen, this is what our starting document will look like, and then our ending document as well. I have opened up my brush tools already. First, let's zoom in, and we'll look at the first thing we're going to start with here is our brushes. So I'm going to go to Windows and then Brushes. Now in this, I've already made some changes here. So I'm going to turn all of these on. So on our brush panel, in here, a couple of things you'll see in here. You do have different views that you can choose this in, whether thumbnail view or list view. You'll generally start off in thumbnail view. At the top, you'll see the brushes. This will be your brush library menu. So you'll have different brushes down here that you can load in. Next to this is your libraries panel, which will bring up your libraries panel. Right. This will let you remove a brush stroke. Options for the selected brush. So for right now, I have the 15-point round. When I click this, it's going to bring up my options panel. And you'll have different options depending on which brush you're using. Next to this is the button for me to create a new brush, and then finally the one to delete a brush. This menu button here will allow me to create a new brush, duplicate a brush, or delete a brush. I can remove brush strokes. I can also in here choose what type of brush I want displayed. So for example, if I just want to see the art brushes, I can come in and choose to cut off all of the other brushes. And now I'll see just the art brushes, or the bristle brushes. And this is one of the things you'll work through with this chapter. I can also change the views from list view to thumbnail view. Personally, I prefer to stay in list view. In here, I do have the option here for the selected object, selected brush. Once again, the option to open up brush libraries and then to save that brush library as well. First, we'll look at the calligraphic brushes. These are set up to mimic a calligraphic pen. So first we'll just look at just those options. So I'm going to cut all the other options off. And you'll see we'll be working with this area here. Now I've been playing around with this a little here and adding some options to this. So I am going to open this up and zoom in. So this is what it'll look like when you start. So with the selection tool, I'm going to select the yellow text. And then when I make my selections on the brushes, you'll see that this will change. Okay, so this will now apply whatever selected brush I have will automatically apply to my selected object. And I can go to select and deselect once I find the option that I want to keep. Yours will be the 5-point flat brush. So I'm going to zoom out. And choose the correct option. Now, I do have some other options I can choose here. So if I double click on this, you'll see that I do have my brush options. That'll come up where I can change the size. And you'll see how the size will affect. I can choose the roundness, the angle, and different options I can choose for each one of these. So I'm going to click the preview button. You'll see how these changes will take effect on your image. And I'm going to hit cancel, so I don't want to actually change this. So you can't edit a brush that way. You can also draw with your brush tool. Once again, let me zoom in. And using my paintbrush tool, I can now draw into my image. Now, a couple things I can do with this is I do have my properties panel. You can see that my brush here, so I can choose the brush sizes here, or some of my brushes from my libraries to draw with. I can change the appearance, the stroke, the opacity, the fill color as well. Now with this, also, zoom in real close here. It's going to be kind of hard to see with the pink, so let me see if I can change the color of this. All right, so you'll see in here that I do have these little handles. Okay, so if I want to change the shape of this, I can draw from that handle, and you'll see it will change everything past that point. So I can go back and modify. So with my selection tool, I select the object, choose my brush tool, and from in here I can then edit that image. Now if I want to remove the brush stroke, I can double click on one of the buttons and that will remove. Remove that brush stroke. Okay, so now let's look at art brushes. All right, so art brushes they stretch artwork or embedded raster images evenly along a length of a path. All right, so I'm going to choose I'm going to zoom out here. We're going to work on some of these areas down here. So I'm going to make a selection. And you see that it's that easy to apply a brush to a pre-designed selection. Once again, double clicking will bring up my art brush options. I can also come in and choose different brushes. So I'm going to choose the decorative, elegant curve, and floral brush set. And so in here I've got different options, and let me zoom in. You can see when I choose these different options, those will be applied to my selection. I can create an art brush as well by clicking the plus symbol, create a new brush. In here, I choose the type of brush. So if I want to choose an art brush, for example, I'm going to click OK. Here, I give it a name. I set the width, the scale options. So if I want to stretch it between the guides, I can choose the start and end. Different colorization methods, the color key to use, and flipping options as well. Okay, and that will save it and create a new brush. Once again, the art brush options, I can click on the name or the icon or beside the name, bring up the options and make option changes here as well. Next, we'll look at some pattern brushes. You see a denim has been applied. Double click this. I do have different options I can choose for this. I can also, once again, create a new pattern. This will take a few seconds for this to load. Okay, so I've got different options I can choose for patterns. And based on my choices, that will can be applied and create a new pattern. Once again, using the brush tool, I can use the brushes to paint in these patterns as well. As you see here, are the denim. So you can use the paintbrush tool along with your brushes settings to design and to draw your image in. I'm going to go back and do these. All right, the bristle brushes, this allows you to create a stroke that's going to appear to have the vector patterns like a paint tool we use, a paintbrush. So I want to turn on only the bristle brushes. So for example, if I wanted a mop pattern or basic, once again, double clicking will bring up my options. And here I can set the size, the bristle length, other options for this. Choose the different types of curves for my options as well. Once again, this is something also I can select using the paintbrush tool and modify. All right, same ways I could with the other brushes as well. Underneath your paintbrush tool, you do have a blob brush tool. And you can use your left and right brackets keys to adjust the size of this. So there was using the left one to take it down. And then I expanded it while using the right one. So I can use the blob brush tool to expand items. So if I wanted to say draw this a little bit thicker, I could. And once again, use the left and right brackets to adjust the size of this. Last one, we're going to look at the eraser tool. Okay, the eraser tool, you can use this to edit as well. As you see how when I cut through an image with the eraser, it's not a straight cut like it was in Photoshop. As you see, it does change the appearance of my strokes to give it a start and an end point. Into my image. All right, so that's the end of chapter 12.